Morning, everybody.
Hey,
This
everybody,
is
this
John, this is John Bailey from Tribbles. I'm the VP of Sales here. I appreciate you joining our meeting today. I think that this training will be very beneficial to everybody attending. This is a great tool and a great app, and should help you with your diagnostics and ordering parts, and hopefully returning the return of parts. I'd like to kick off the training. I'd like to introduce Juan Morales of GE. I've gone through this training myself, and Juan does a great job, and I think that you'll enjoy it very much. As Juan mentioned earlier, if you could turn off your cameras and mute your mics and just use the chat button if you have questions and that sort of thing, it will help facilitate the training a little bit better. So welcome and enjoy. And Juan, I'll turn it over to you.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much, John. Thanks for inviting us, and thanks to everybody over at Tribbles. We appreciate the partnership we have with you, and thank you all for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Juan Morales. I am the Senior Staff Field Application Engineer for SmartHQ Pro here at GE Appliances. Now, we're not at GE Appliance Park right now, as you can see. We're in my dingy basement because upstairs we are doing major construction. So the upcoming webinars that we're going to facilitate are going to be in a beautiful setting with nice brand new appliances. But for today's purpose, as a service technician, I've been in worse places. So this is actually not so bad. We do have a GE profile refrigerator behind me that is fully functional, and I'm going to demonstrate all the things you can do with the SmartHQ service application as far as diagnosing it, right? So we're going to go over temperature assessment. We're going to turn on the defrost heaters. We're going to check the sealed system. We're going to check fans, thermistors, all that stuff. And one thing you'll notice is that I'm not going to move from this spot. I may twist my body or something to open the door, but essentially everything that I just talked about right now, you're going to be able to do it right from your application. So let me preface the rest of the training just by saying this. For those of you that already have SmartHQ service and have been using it, you've probably come to learn that in terms of your diagnostic time, that is cut in at the very least in half, right? But the more technicians I speak to that have this tool, and again, I'm speaking to you as a technician, not as a member of the commercial team on GE Appliances. The diagnostic time that normally takes, let's say, a defrost system, right? You're checking the defrost heater, the main board for voltage, you're checking your thermistor. You'd spend maybe 45 minutes or so doing that diagnostic to see if the defrost system is working. In less than 5 minutes with this tool, you can assess the situation and know exactly which part it is that's failing, so you can replace just that one part. So it's really a beautiful thing. And then the other thing is your first time fix rate with SmartHQ service instantly is going to go up. And the reason I say that's a very bold statement, right? That's kind of very, upfront and sort of, direct for me to say, but it's, I wouldn't be saying if it wasn't true. One of the features that we have on SmartHQ service is the ability to update the firmware on your appliance right from the app. So I'm going to show you how you can press one button and update the firmware on a board, or in some cases, multiple boards on your appliance. In the case of this GE profile fridge, this is a French door with a ice maker on the door over here. There are two boards that we would need to update in order to resolve some kind of software-related bug, right? And those are two boards that normally you would need to swap out. So that means you need to order them, come back for a second service visit, put the parts in, and hope that it works. And typically it does, right? When you get a new board with the firmware already updated, it will work. The problem is the second service visit. For you servicers, that's a killer, right? The more you can bring or mitigate the number of extra service visits, the lower your operational costs are and the more profitable you'll be. So, anytime you can use a tool to increase your first time fix rate, it's always going to help you at the end. And that being said, my friends, let's go ahead and quickly get started, because the first half of the training, or I should say maybe about 60% of the training, is going to be on the SmartHQ service app. And then the last part of the training, we are going to be talking about how you can interpret schematic diagrams. So even if you don't use this tool for anything, right? But if you stick around for the end for the schematic diagrams, I'm going to show you how to easily interpret a schematic diagram for this particular refrigerator. So you can check fans, sensors, defrost, like the high voltage section. And we're going to have a little quiz at the end where I'm going to test your knowledge, and you're going to find yourself being able to pinpoint exactly where you place your multimeter leads on that main control board based on the schematic, so you can measure some of the cool components on the fridge. All right. So that being said, let's go ahead and quickly get started. So one thing I do want to share, my friends, is, oops. See how come this isn't all right. One thing I want to share here is our contact information. So we do have a website, and that website is smarthqpro.com/service. Our email address, for those of you that have this tool or are in need of support, or if you just want to give us a shout out, our email is smarthqservice.support@geappliances.com. And that parts code right there, I want you to please write it down or take a picture of it, whatever, TRI23. That parts code is going to allow you to go from the application right to Tribbles' website, so you can buy your parts right from them, right? So it's a seamless process. It's kind of like a one-stop shop, and it just makes things a lot easier. Also, if you look at that QR code right there, if you have your cell phones out and wish to scan it now, and I'm going to show it later, so don't worry about it if you're not ready. But that is our Fix It Like a Pro training series of webinars. If you click on that, or if you rather scan that QR code, it's going to allow you to register for the upcoming webinars. They're totally free. You don't have to pay anything. You just have to be present when they're happening. But we showed things like, I think next month we have laundry, then we have ice maker, like breakdown, how to troubleshoot an ice maker down to the components. We're going to have later on toward the Thanksgiving time, we're going to have webinars on cooking, because you know what happens, right? During Thanksgiving, customers call and they say their oven is not working, and we want to make sure that you are fully prepared to address those kind of things. So definitely scan that QR code. And again, if you don't have a chance right now, we will show it again a little bit later on, so you can reserve your spot. All right, so the other thing is the system itself, right? So my friends, one of the things that I've already done for time purposes is I've already paired my mobile device. In this case, I'm just using an iPhone with the Bluetooth module, and I've connected the Bluetooth module to the Ethernet port on the refrigerator for time purposes, okay? But let me just kind of explain to you how the system works. So at the heart of it all is going to be that Bluetooth module that you see right there. And it could be, I think the one that you would get normally would be in black color with these bands, these sort of protective bands are gray. But it doesn't really matter the color. This module right here is going to connect.
Yeah, this is one. No, you're on.
To, oh, is there a question? Sorry, I think there's a question.
Yes, I think one of the screens on, so we cannot see that. We see half.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
One of the screens is off.
Yeah, that's on. So that what the person was Shane.
Oh yeah, Shane, if you could mute your camera, please. If you could just shut off your camera, that'd be great. Just go to the upper right-hand corner. There's a little camera icon. If you click on, yeah, there you go. Beautiful. All right, awesome. All right. So sorry about that. Let me just go back over here. The module is going to connect using an RJ45 cable to a port on the appliance. In this case, a French door refrigerator has a port located behind the top middle cover. So all you need to do is reach around the back. You don't have to pull the unit out of the point of installation. And the port is right there. Once you connect, you're going to be able to diagnose the unit. So like this cartoon guy is checking the compressor, right? But just like you can check the compressor, you can check the fans, the defrost system, your water valves, your anything else, your three what do they call it? The refrigerant diverter, the diverter valve, things like that. So it's it's truly a remarkable tool. And in addition to doing real-time diagnostics, you also get access to cloud-based service documentation, which of course will be in the form of things like schematic diagrams, the entire service manual. So like if you wanted to see the service manual that has a disassembly procedure and test procedure for any one of our appliances, this app will have it. So that in itself is the system, my friends, and we're going to go through in detail what it consists of. But one of the things I want to talk about is compatibility, right? So a lot of you might be asking, well, how far back does this tool go in terms of the appliances that I work on, right, and on a regular basis? So GE Appliances launched this in 2012 for our factory service technicians, and at the time they used to carry this big, heavy laptop, right, and that's how they would connect. Obviously, with the advent of technology, we've managed to take this app from a desktop or a laptop version down to a mobile version, right? And one of the things that you're going to see today, I'm going to share, is everything that I do on my screen over here, you're going to be able to see it on your, on your end, on that side, right? Yeah, it's on that side. So whatever I click on, whatever I show in real time, you will be able to see it. That's why you don't need to log in on your device. You could just watch mine for today and just kind of follow along that way. Okay, my friends. So again, this dates back to 2012. Now, those appliances in 2012 were limited to the number of appliances that had an RJ45 port. But I'm going to say since 2017 and on, the majority of the appliances that you work on in the field will have that RJ45 port. Maybe you've come across it and you're like, what is this? What is it the Ethernet port for? And you're wondering what it's for. Now, I'll be honest with you. I've seen customers actually connect that to like their router because they think it's going to connect the appliance to the internet in some way. But it's not for that. It's a service port, right? It's so that you can go ahead and diagnose it. So that being said, my friends, that was the system just in a nutshell. But I want to pause really quickly to see if there are any questions about anything I've talked about so far. And I'm just going to ask John or somebody on the on Tribbles' end, if you see the questions on the chat, if you could read it off to me, only because it's hard for me to kind of go back and forth. So if there's a question that comes up and you see it on the chat, just kind of pause me and then I'll be able to answer it, okay? But I think there's no questions right now, so I'm going to go ahead and move on real quick. And let's go ahead and talk about the system itself. So one thing that you're going to see as soon as you connect to the appliance is, of course, the user interface, right? And let me just go ahead and zoom a little bit into the some of the sections over here. So all the way at the top, you're going to see the Bluetooth connection green button. And this basically means that you have successfully paired your mobile device to the Bluetooth module. And by the way, pairing is super simple. It's the same thing that you pair your watch or your headphones or any other devices that pair through Bluetooth. And this app, by the way, does work for Android and iOS. We're just showing on an iPhone for now because this is what we had to work with. Below that, you're going to see which appliance you're connected to. So the model and serial number will automatically populate, which is really nice because then you'll know that you're connected to that appliance and that appliance only. And the manufacturer date will show up as well as the running time. So if you have maybe some concerns in terms of whether the machine is in warranty or not, this will validate it. And then below here, you have more information. For example, on refrigerators, you have your water filter status. So if you click on this status, it'll tell you how many gallons have been used. It'll tell you if the water filter is expired. It will also give you a warning if your customer is using a non-GE filter, right? Like one of the ones you get from online somewhere that's really inexpensive but doesn't have that RFID chip. So you will know that, right? If the customer is not using the filter that they should be using. Then of course below is your diagnostics, and this is where we're really going to deep dive today. First and foremost, you have your fault codes and your alerts. And what this is, and I just want to kind of address the audience here, the fault codes and the alerts are your diagnostics. So rather than you having to go into the user interface, right? I think you all have done this at some point. Press a series of keys on the user interface, some codes flash, and then you either know what they are or you don't know what they are, and you're called tech line, right? So with SmartHQ service, the codes are going to come up, and when you click on the codes, you will actually be able to see a detailed description of what the fault code means and when it happened. So we'll go into details as far as that goes in a second. But as far as the alerts, right? One of the alerts that you're going to see on the demo we're going to do today is the fact that the ice maker is not working. But the reason it's not working is not because it's a broken ice maker, but rather because the consumer, the customer, tenant, whatever it is you're working, either property management or in a customer's house, the customer has turned off the ice maker function, and therefore it's not making ice. So as a technician, I can tell you this: I worked for an OEM that had some problems with their ice makers. Right, you had to put a couple clips and some glue around the inside. I think you know what I'm talking about. So when I used to have 10 service calls a day on ice makers, or in general, and I saw one that was ice maker, I didn't even think. I automatically my instinct was go in there, change the ice maker, change the main board. Slap on the glue, put the little clips, do all that, only to find out that in some cases there was no problem at all. the customer just had shut off the ice maker. But in my mind, I was like, I have to fix this. So I just wasted a ton of time, a ton of money and parts for, well, it's good for Tribbles, right? Because then you can get the parts from them. But I think you understand the point that I'm trying to get to. There are things that are not really a problem that we overlook as technicians in the field, and this tool will help you, will help guide you to resolve them. And then, of course, we have diagnostics, which we'll go into, and firmware update availability. So you can update the firmware right from here. And below is where you're going to find your service documentation. So rather than me sort of showing you this, kind of on a PowerPoint, let me go ahead and dive right into it, okay? So what you're seeing right now on your screen, right, is basically what I'm seeing as soon as I connect it to this refrigerator. And I can already see that there's a couple issues I need to look at, right? So again, all the way at the top is my model and serial number. This unit has been running since for 2 years and almost 3 years, right, since January 2021. And of course, if I hit the water filter button, it tells me that it's basically expired, right? It has no days left. It's been in there for 548 days. It's been used for 100% of the time. So I know it's time to change that water filter. But below that is where I find my fault codes, right? And this is, again, going to allow me to extract the fault codes that are in the fridge without me having to go into the user interface. So by simply pressing fault codes, I can see that there's 3 fault codes. There's an F604, 605, and an F10. And I have no idea what those mean. But I don't have to worry about it because all I need to do is click on one of them, right? It doesn't matter which one you click on, and a detailed description of what the fault code means and essentially how to fix it will come up for you. Now, one of the things about this is you notice that there are 2 inactive fault codes and there's 1 active. I want to just make clear this, the active fault codes you have to do something about. There's either an open component, open thermistor, or there's a problem. But the inactive ones, you don't have to worry about at all. That means that was a problem that happened a while back. It's been resolved either, through time or the customer resolved it somehow. I'll give you an example. The one that says F605, right? Because you're probably wondering, how do things get resolved on their own? They don't, right? But this is a good example. This one says that the ice maker in the door senses that the bucket is full even after the ice was dispensed. So that's the little arm that checks the, for ice in the bucket. It's probably stuck in one position. The reason for that, more than likely, is because if you leave the door slightly open, or if you leave it open for a long time, warm air infiltrates. If those ice cubes inside got sort of clumped up and then remained in a position where it's blocking the arm movement, the ice bucket might detect that it's full even after you dispense the ice. The other thing that sometimes happens is that customers will go on vacation for 2 weeks. They won't dispense any ice, and then the ice just sort of forms into one big solid rock, right? And it prevents the arm from moving. So that could be one of those issues. But again, the issue is gone because maybe the customer went in there, took the ice bucket out, emptied it, and everything's resolved. But the one that says active, the thermistor, that's an open thermistor, okay? So that being said, let me hit the back arrow button over here, and let's go to the alert. So if we hit the alert button, you notice that one of the alerts says no ice complaint, and the ice maker is off. So this one is, again, telling you that the ice maker or the customer might be complaining about a no ice production symptom or slow ice or whatever. It's the unit's not making ice. But the reason for this is not because the ice maker is broken, but rather because the ice function is turned off. So if I were to turn on this ice function, refresh the screen, it takes a couple minutes, that alert would be gone. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and do it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the ice function on. Right, we're going to turn the ice function on, and we're going to come back a little bit later on. Maybe we'll reopen the session, we'll refresh it, and then we'll see that alert will be gone. Now I'm going to skip the diagnostics. I'm going to go right to the firmware update because I do want to talk about that. So firmware updates, if you click on that, you see the green button at the top that says apply. This is essentially telling me as a technician that this unit that I came to service, for whatever reason I came to service it, is also in need of a firmware update. And the firmware update could fix a software-related issue. It could enhance the functionality of the refrigerator. And I'll give you an example. In the case of ovens, I think about a year or 2 years ago, I think we launched a firmware update that allowed a regular oven, right, to become an air fryer, but it needed an update to the software in order to have that function. So think about how cool that is, right? Let's say you walk into that oven situation and you're replacing an element, right? The bake element for whatever reason. But then you notice when you plug in your SmartHQ tool that there's an update and you can make that oven not only work, functional, but also make it become an air fryer. Your customer is going to love you for that. And some technicians, some service companies will actually charge a fee for updating the software, and that's fair, right? Because it's a valuable tool. So whatever it is, $50, 75, if you ask your customer, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, while I'm here, I noticed that your appliance is in need of an update for an extra, whatever, $50, I can do it right now, or I can come back a second service visit. I can almost guarantee your customer is going to say, just go ahead and do it because you're here, you're already, you already disassembled the product, everything. Just go ahead and do it. And that's one way to maybe offset the cost of having this tool. So again, the firmware update feature right in the front of the screen. No need for you to pretty much do anything else. All right, I'm going to see if there's any questions on the line. I'm also going to ask if you have your microphone unmuted. If you could just mute yourself because we're hearing a little bit of background noise. But any questions, my friends, about anything I've talked about so far? All right, silence is good to a certain point. To a certain point, I do want to see if there's any questions later on, but that's okay.
Hey, Juan.
So, yeah.
Juan, there are a few questions in the chat.
Oh, perfect. Yes. Please.
This is Kim. This is Kim with Tribbles.
Hey, Kim. How are you?
Good. One of them is, good morning. How do we become certified factory service vendors?
Okay, so to become authorized with GE Appliances, you just need to send over an email with your contact information and the area that you cover. And what we would do is we would send that over to the area service manager to see if there's a need in your area for coverage. If there is, you would be contacted and the process would begin. So if you can share that with Kim or John, and then they can share it with me later on privately via email, I can forward that information to the right person. So, but yeah, thanks for asking. And we're always looking for great service companies to work for. In fact, the area I live in, there's no coverage, so they had to send somebody from far away. And so there's always opportunities.
Okay.
What's the other question, Kim?
Looks like that's it.
All right, awesome. So thank you. Yeah, as questions come in.
Question.
Oh yeah, I see a hand up. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. When you see you see here, I only see you in the video. I don't see the app screen. So I don't know what you're talking about because I don't see the app screen and the steps you were going through.
Oh my goodness. Okay, do me a favor. Look at my picture.
Yep.
Go ahead and you see the three little dots by me? Click on those three little dots and say pin for me.
Read the background effect, chat, people, view. Pin I don't see a pin for me.
So by my screen, you should see three little, like on my picture frame, you should see three little dots at the bottom left-hand corner. If you click those three little dots, it'll give you some options. One of them should say pin for me. So if you could do that.
Or left side or right side?
Yeah, there's one on the right side next to like the disconnect button or call button. When I click it, it gives me the chat option, people, view.
Okay, let me try this. Spotlight. Okay, can you see it now? I just spotlighted for everybody.
Now I can see it.
Now you can see it. Okay, perfect. It's okay. So
Thank
either
you.
okay, my pleasure. Either you could do it or I could do it, but I think I just did it manually, so now everybody should be able to see it. Okay. Let me go ahead and get right into the diagnostics because we've talked about a lot of things, but we haven't really diagnosed this fridge yet. So let's go right to diagnostics over here. And the first thing I want to do is assess the temperature values of the fridge. So the upper right-hand corner has a little graph button. I'm going to click on it, and you're going to notice that instantly all my thermistor temperature values are going to come up. So right now, again, I haven't even opened the fridge doors, but I can tell that my fresh food thermistor is at 34.59 degrees. My freezer thermistor is at minus 7.52 degrees. So this unit, for all intents and purposes, is cooling properly, right? And of course, my ice box is at 28. I can see every single one of my thermistors, including my evaporator thermistors. So I know this fridge is cooling properly, but then I noticed that there's one in red. So you see the ice maker mold body thermistor, 300 degrees Fahrenheit. This is basically telling me that I have an open thermistor. And it's not really a problem, I can assure you of that. And the reason for that is because this fridge has a second ice maker, or an optional second ice maker I could have put in the freezer section, but I didn't. So SmartHQ is detecting that there's a thermistor absent, and it's recording it as a fault. But if I were to put a thermistor in there, or not a thermistor, an ice maker, then the problem would, or the fault would go away. Now, if that fault was somewhere else, like in the fresh food compartment or the freezer compartment, then I do have, an issue and I have to replace the thermistor. But you see, just like that, I didn't have to open the doors, use my infrared thermometer. All my temperature values came up right away, and I can tell that the fridge is cooling. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to what's called my cycle history. And one of the things I want to show you here is that you can see from the minute you connect to the appliance how the unit has been cooling, or if the fridge was, like if the fridge door was left open, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the cycle history button over here. And when I click on that, I see all this data, right? All this temperature data for every single one of my compartments. So if I go, let's just do something simple. Let's do the freezer compartment. So I'm going to check the freezer compartment for temperature. So I'm going to go freezer max, and I'm going to add that to the graph. I'm going to go to freezer minimum temperature, add that to the graph, and I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add the freezer evaporator max temperature and add that to the graph. Now, when I hit the graph button, boop, there's my graph. I can see that my temperature value, right, the difference between the min and max has been somewhere between -6 and 7 degrees Fahrenheit. So all in all, my refrigerator has been cooling properly, or my freezer has been frozen. There are really no issues whatsoever. And if I were to see any like major spikes or things like that, one thing I can look in the cycle history is how many times the door was left open. So I'm going to highlight that section right here. This section is for the fresh food door. Obviously, I don't use this fridge much. I have one upstairs. But if I were to scroll, I would be able to see how many times the fridge door was left open. Yeah, I heard there was a question on the line. I see a hand raised. Is there a question?
Yeah, how do you, I know you've been talking, I got in a little late, but how does it identify which appliance you're talking to?
Oh, as soon as you connect your Bluetooth module to the refrigerator's Ethernet port, and then you launch the app from your phone, it'll immediately connect to the main board on the appliance you're connected to.
Okay,
so
could it that meter to scan the code bar or something like that? Is that faster?
No, actually, you can scan. I know what you're talking about. This QR code, right? You can scan the QR code, but that's only that only applies to a unit that doesn't have an Ethernet port. If the unit has an Ethernet port, you'll immediately talk to it via this connection.
Okay.
So,
okay. Thank you.
Much more simple. Yep, no problem at all. So this cycle history, what I want to reiterate here, my friends, is this. Cycle history can help you identify, for example, we get customers that'll say, hey, my fridge has not been cooling properly. And obviously, we can't prove to them, hey, you left the door open. We can't prove that unless we know, right? So sometimes my kids do this all the time. They'll go into the fridge to get snacks, and they leave the door like this. So you can see the gap right there. The door is not fully closed. It's a little bit open. Now, if I walk away from this and I go to work, all day, I come back at night, there's going to be warm air that has infiltrated even that little opening right there. So then I go ahead and shut the door, but the damage has already been done. Maybe I've, the temperature has gone up internally. So with cycle history, you're able to see exactly how many times the customer opened the door, when they left it open, if the ice maker has been making ice, if the temperature has gone up, down, left, right, in circles, all of that information so that you can explain to your customer in the event that it's an issue with the appliance and not necessarily, with how they're using it, and not necessarily with the appliance. So that's the cycle history I wanted to share. And then now we're going to go into operate loads. Okay, so again, I want to go ahead and click the graph button over here, or I should say the watch box. That's what it's really called, the watch box button, and see what the temperature values are. So I can see my freezer thermistor is at minus 8.23 degrees Fahrenheit. Everybody should be able to see that. What I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to activate the defrost heater or the defrost system. And again, remember I mentioned to you before that you can test the entire defrost system in a matter of minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how we're going to do that to determine if that defrost system on the freezer section is working or not. To do that, we're going to go to operate loads. And in operate loads, you have the option to turn on the fans, the heaters, the cooling system. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the heaters. And first, I need to enter service mode. So to enter service mode, I need to hit that little green button. And let me open the door so you can see what happens when I enter service mode. Right now, the unit is operating all by itself, okay? So it has control of itself. As soon as I enter service mode, you're going to notice the lights are going to shut off because I've basically taken control over the appliance's mainboard from my mobile device, all right? So this mobile device is now, I'm going to close the door. This mobile device is now my remote control for every component on this appliance. So if I want to turn on the defrost heaters, all I have to do is go to the freezer. That's the one we're going to check. We're going to hit the on button. And I want you to notice two things, okay? Everybody pay close attention to this. I want you to notice, if you could just put your phone on mute, please. Whoever has it on, unmute it. So we're getting some background noise over here. So the freezer defrost heater, when I hit that on button, I want you to notice the load status, which is currently off. I want you to see it go from off to on. Watch. So we turn it on from the app. And in a couple of seconds, that load status will, there it is, it went on. This is super, 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 super important. Let me tell you why. How many times do we say, oh, is it the component, like the heater, or is it the main board? Or is it, you know, like if you're working on a washing machine, is it the water valves or the drain pump, or is it the main board? Believe me when I tell you this, you do not want to replace a main board unless you absolutely have to. And most of the time, I'm not going to say 100%, but most of the time, the main board is not the problem. It's something else. But this tool, the fact that the load status went from off to on validates that the main board is actually sending the signal to the heater to turn on, right? So right away, as soon as I see that go from off to on, boom, I know my main board's good. If it didn't go from off to on, I know I have a problem with my main board. So that's an easy way to identify which component is bad. But now that I've validated that my main board is good, the second thing that I want to see is that evaporator or the freezer evaporator thermistor go from minus 8.41 degrees Fahrenheit that it's at right now, go from that to something higher as soon as the heating element in the freezer section energizes and starts to radiate heat, right? Because think about it, when you apply 120 volts to that heater, if the circuit is complete, right, if the bimetal devices are good, if the thermal fuses are good, and the heater is not open, it should energize and radiate heat. And who's going to read that? The evaporator thermistor, right? So in a few minutes, we're going to sort of come back. And actually, we don't even have to wait that long. We can already see the freezer evaporator thermistor, the temperature's going up. It was at like, I think it started like -9. Now it's going up. Now it's at -7. And it's going to continue to go up here. So while we're sort of letting that do its thing for a couple seconds, any questions on the line, my friends? I see a hand up there. So John, I see your hand up there, buddy. And I see Bialu. You have a question? Go ahead, unmute yourself and please ask your question.
Yes, my question is about the filter and the water filter.
Okay.
How do we know is it has a chips or not? But it shows the same GE product, and the customer purchases from I believe it's on Amazon, but this is the same G. It's not a generic, just a G, and it didn't work. And
Gotcha.
then I ordered another one from GE, the same product, same package, it works. But I tried to contact for the tech support, but they said they have to look at the date. But how do we know the date, which one is purchased and which one is
the date I can't speak to, but I can tell you this: as soon as you the application will identify if the chip is is the right one. If it's not, like if it's obviously like a clone, right? Like of somebody has made one that looks like it, you will get an error that says RFID chip error, like on the
Yeah,
app
but this is
itself.
G product.
Yeah, but just because it's GE or it says GE, somebody could have made a like an exact duplicate of it.
No,
That's
it's
the problem, that people will.
okay.
There are companies that make one that looks exactly the same. It has a logo and everything, but it's not the genuine. So
Because
unfortunately,
how
that's
can I tell? Because I had both package to see if any different, but they're on the
yeah.
same package. But
Yeah,
as a
those are
customer,
those are difficult unless they order directly from a parts distributor like Tribbles or from GE Appliances directly. There is really no way to tell, unfortunately. Again, if you connect the app, it will automatically flag it as soon as it doesn't identify the chip, so you will know. Hey, listen, I don't know where you got this from, but this is obviously not detecting it. So if you can ask, right? Most people
yeah,
will
but
tell you, yeah, I got
they
it
were
from
complaining
Amazon or
it's the
something.
G. The
What's
customers
that?
complain it's a G product. So what are you telling me? It's not. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can slap a GE logo on this water bottle and put it in there, and then that's the problem with buying from not a reputable source, right? So again, advise them to buy from Tribbles, and then they should have no trouble whatsoever. All right, my friends. Any other questions on the line, real quick, because I just want to make sure I cover everything. I see John, you have your hand up there. Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and just show you here. We can see clearly that the freezer or defrost heater, and again, this was a matter of about 5 minutes that we talked about. The freezer or defrost heater is now at 2, or the evaporator is now at 2.2 degrees. So definitely we know 100% that heater is working, because if it wasn't working, the temperature would have stayed cold. And obviously it's not staying cold, so we know it's working. Now, if the temperature had stayed cold, despite the fact that my load status went from off to on, which means the main board is good, I would know I have either an open heater or an open bimetal or an open thermal fuse, right? It depends really on what it is that failed. At that point, you do need to be a technician and dig in there and find out which one is open, but at the very least, SmartHQ service has pointed you in the right direction, and you know exactly where to look. So let me go ahead and kill this test. So we're going to shut it off. And now I'm going to show the opposite, right? Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to turn on the sealed system, right? We're going to actually check the the sealed system to make sure the compressor is working, to make sure that this unit is capable of cooling properly. And this is a really cool test, especially if you've done a sealed system repair recently on the appliance. And when I was a technician, what I would do if I replaced the compressor or the evaporator, anytime I did a sealed system repair, I would remove the evaporator covers, let the unit run, and then look for a nice kind of even frost pattern. And let me say this, that is by far the #1 way of verifying that you have refrigerant going to your evaporators, okay? Hands down, there's nothing better than that. The problem with that is that it's time consuming. You got to take all the food out. It is like a process, right? So before you even do that, what you can do with our application, you can go to the sealed system test. So we're going to exit out of service mode for a second here. And I want to show you over here, just when you exit service mode, you're going to notice that the refrigerator is going to sort of come back to life, right? So we exit service mode. So the lights are going to come back, and everything is going to be reset, right? So now the refrigerator has control of itself. So what I'm going to do over here is we're going to go back. We're going to go to my diagnostic tests, and we're going to enter service mode once again. So I just enter service mode. And again, you're going to notice that the lights are off because I just entered service mode again. But now I'm in what's called the diagnostic test, and I'm going to focus today on the cooling test. So the cooling test, you don't have to read all this stuff. I'm going to basically tell you what it says. But this is the instructions on how to run this test, right? So SmartHQ has instructions built in that show you how to use the app itself. So it's very intuitive. But for time purposes, I'm just going to tell you. So the first thing we need to do is we need to set our 3-way valve to send the refrigerant to where we want it to go. So I can either send it to go to the freezer section, the fresh food and freezer, or I can leave it shut off. In this case, what I want to see is refrigerant going to both the fresh food and the freezer section. And in order to do that, all I have to do is hit my FF and FZ button. And now you notice that the valve position from both closed went to FF and FZ. So literally in the back of the fridge by the compressor area where the valve is, the three-way valve, if you would have put your finger on the valve, you would have felt it vibrate a little because it's just a DC stepper motor, right? That's all it is. So it gets energized based on the signal I sent from here, and the valve sort of shakes around, and then you know that it's working. But this system tells you exactly which position it's in, and so you basically set it to fresh food and freezer. And for those of you that do seal systems, you can already imagine how this can help you when you're trying to, like, you know, do your evacuation, things like that, and you're trying to set that valve. This is a great way to set it manually. So that being said, my friends, when I hit the compressor and condenser high speed button, so I'm going to turn it on, boop, the compressor, I just heard the compressor kick in, it's going to run. The evaporator fan or the condenser fan is going to start to spin as well. And the, let me just highlight the columns here. I think I can highlight with my finger. No, I can't really highlight it, unfortunately. But you see at the bottom over here where it says fresh food evaporator start now, and then freezer evaporator start now. These two values right here are what the current temperature values are of my evaporator thermistors in the fresh food section and in the freezer section. And after a little while, I'm going to say maybe 5-7 minutes or so, you will notice the right side of the column, the temperature, will have dropped. Now, one thing you're noticing right now is that the freezer evaporator thermistor keeps going up. And the reason for that is because that heating element that we energized hasn't cooled down just yet. It's still hot, right? You don't just cut power and then you can grab it. You're going to burn yourself. It's still radiating heat. So it's going to take a little time, but eventually you're going to see that number start to drop as refrigerant goes to those evaporator coils. Okay. So while that's happening, my friends, I do want to share this cool video that I have for you here on dishwashers, because we do want to talk about the dishwashers as well. Just real quick while we're doing this training, and a part that you can get from Tribbles, trying to find okay, I'm trying to find the video there, and a part that you can get directly from Tribbles that will allow you to see inside of the dishwasher. So we'll sort of switch screens over here, go to our videotape, as we say around here, and let this roll. Take a look. To run this test, click Next and select Operate Loads. Enter service mode and click Operate Loads. Next, activate the water valve test to allow water to enter the dishwasher. While the unit fills, let's open up the watch box so we can monitor other components. By looking at the temperature, turbidity, and water pressure sensor values, we can determine if these components are operating correctly. A rise in temperature indicates the thermistor is detecting hot water is coming into the unit. The turbidity value tells us that the water is relatively clear. And lastly, a drop in pressure frequency confirms that water is indeed entering the unit. Now, using the circulation pump test, we can activate each wash area individually. Let's start with the lower spray arm and let it run for approximately 15 seconds. We'll turn it off and move on to the upper spray arm. Finally, let's activate the silverware wash area. As we can see, every wash area is operating correctly. Okay, my friends, so again, this was just a really quick video that showed you on a different product. I wanted to kind of throw it in there because I want everybody to know that this tool does more than just refrigerators, right? It works on washers, dryers, dishwashers, ovens. So it works across the entire line of GE appliances, including all of our brands, luxury brands like Monogram and Cafe and Profile, Hotpoint, Haier, and of course, GE, right? There's a lot of questions out there as to, does this only work on like the GE brand, but not the monogram or the cafe? And the answer to that is no. It works across the entire lineup of GE appliances. So we'll do another webinar at some point related to dishwashers, so we can explain a lot more of those parameters. But what you just saw, the turbidity value, the pressure sensor, the thermistor, those are things that normally you would have to pull the unit from the point of installation, go to your main board, check with a multimeter. And you don't have to do that anymore because the application gives you all that information. So let's go ahead and quickly show now where we're at in terms of temperature. And we can see that 4 minutes have gone by. Our temperature in the fresh food evaporator has gone from 35 degrees to 21 degrees, so it's getting colder. The freezer evaporator is starting to drop. We noticed that it was high before, and again, I mentioned to you that it was high, the temperature, because we had just turned on the heater, and of course that heater is very powerful. It really, really cooks that area of the refrigerator. So the defrost sensor, it's going to take a little bit of time to drop, but you can see the temperature continues to drop and drop and drop more, which means that evaporator coil is starting to frost up. And again, without me having to even open the doors or take the food out, I know already that 100% refrigerant is going to that section. Now, again, if I didn't see if I didn't see the temperature drop in either the fresh food or the freezer compartment, I would suspect either a sealed system problem or maybe that three-way valve is not working properly. It's not channeling the refrigerant to where I want it to go. So I would have to check for that. But again, the diagnostics with the tool, it's super, super fast. And in terms of how your customer views you as a service company, let me tell you, when I joined GE and I started learning about this and going on technician rides and just visiting customers, as soon as they see you walk in with technology like this, and you can put this on a big iPad too if you wanted to, they're pretty impressed. They're like, wow, you're diagnosing my fridge with a computer. I didn't know you can do that, right? And it's kind of high tech, right? Especially like a lot of the millennials, right? Or the Gen Zers that have, these appliances in their houses. They're like, oh, this is so cool. How can I get that app? And of course, they can't because they're a regular customer. This is only available for trained professionals like yourselves. All right, so that being said, I'm going to go ahead and kill this test. So we're going to hit the all off button, and we're going to exit service mode. And at this point, so we've checked, again, we've done fault codes, we've done the cycle history, we did the defrost system, we did this full sealed system. So now we're going to go back and exit over here, and I want to show you really quick the documentation, okay? Because part of this training, in a few minutes, we're going to go ahead and talk about the schematic diagrams, okay? But where do you get your schematic diagrams from? Because you need that first and foremost in order to be able to follow along, right? To read them. So one of the places where you can get your schematics is from the mini manual that sometimes it's attached somewhere in a hidden compartment of the appliance, right? The problem is, and especially with dishwashers, right? I see this all the time. For some reason, when they attach the mini manual to the dishwasher, they put like some blue tape on it. And when you try to pull that mini manual out and you rip the blue tape, all the print is gone. So now that piece of paper is kind of useless. But on the app itself, you're going to be able to pull up, and I'm going to just show the app right here all by itself so you can see it. On the app, if you go to the product features and you go to manuals and bulletins, you can actually pull up that schematic diagram right from the mini manual. So we're going to go to the mini manual, which is in digital form. And you notice that it's it's kind of small, kind of grainy, kind of blurry. But look at the crystal clear graphics when I pinch to zoom. Take a look at this. Look at the quality that you can see here. And in this case, we're looking at at the fresh food defrost heater. I can clearly see that John, if you can mute yourself there, buddy. I'm hearing a little background noise there. John Bailey, I think your microphone is the one that's. All right, thank you so much. All right, so we have the fresh food defrost heater. You can see that it's 87 ohms. It's got 2 black wires that are connected to it. It's got 2 thermal fuses that are in line with the heater, which will open up at 171 degrees. And if you need to know where to connect them or where to test them, it's an orange and yellow wire on your main board, and that's going to be your neutral line and your heater line. So this right here, the ability, here's your fans. The ability to be able to see these schematics in this, with this high fidelity is so super important, because not only will you be able to see this, but on units that, for example, are not compatible with SmartHQ, that you still have to go into the test mode, All the details will be right on the mobile device, right on the app. Again, no need to Google anything. Like a lot of times we Google information or go to YouTube or phone somebody, maybe a buddy of ours, or call Techline. And, you know, I love the Techline guys. They're super awesome. They're a really, really good group for the most part. But they're overwhelmed with calls, especially now that the heat is coming, the summertime. They're going to be on those phones 24/7. And, you know, when they have a queue of phone calls, one of them might be yours. You might be on hold for 10, 15, 20 minutes, sometimes even 30 minutes, and you don't have time for that. So the more information that you have available to you on the spot, the more time you're going to save. And the same info that is on SmartHQ service is the same information that our technical assistance group has. So whatever they research, you can research it right here, okay? So that being said, my friends, before we move to the schematics, I do want to talk one last thing about parts. And for that, I'm going to bring up the parts information here. So if I want to find out what parts I need for this appliance, I can simply go to One Parts. That's a button all the way at the bottom. And an exploded drawing of every single section of the fridge is going to come up. So let's say that I needed that, I don't know, I needed that main control board. So I go to the main board, I go to the machine compartment over here, I click on it, and now I can, let me go ahead and flip the phone view. I don't know if I can do that. No, it's not allowing me to. But anyway, if we pinch to zoom, you notice that there's my board right there, right? I'm going to go ahead and click 901. That's the item number, and the part number shows up right then and there, right? And it gives me a description. It's a refrigerator main control board. But now I can go with that part number. So let me just pull it up again. I'm going to pull up something else. Let's say this ice maker right here. So this ice maker, you can actually go ahead and copy that. You can go to this parts ordering button all the way at the bottom right-hand corner. And I'm going to go to the parts marketplace, and the code I gave you, remember the code I gave everybody, TRI23? That'll take you right to Tribbles' website. You can go ahead and at the top part, click there. Oops. Paste that number. Let me see if I can paste it. Why isn't it allowing me to paste? Paste, there we go. And then search for it. So I'm going to hit the little search button. And my part should come up. Fortunately, I think I have okay, it's loading. It's just my mobile device has very poor service here. There it is. There's the ice maker that we were talking about. And just like that, my friends, you can find exactly the parts that you need right from the parts distributor you already do business with, which is Tribbles. And that's a wonderful thing. So again, remember that code TRI23. I am going to be showing it on the screen. Matter of fact, you know what? Let's go ahead and show it right now because, well, I don't have, unfortunately, I don't have it. I can't see it on my screen, but just remember the parts code is TRI23. So let me just show you how I did that, okay? Let's get out of here for a second. Let's go back to SmartHQ. So we're on the dashboard screen. Everybody should be able to see the dashboard screen. And you can see right here all the way at the bottom, it says parts ordering. So we're going to click parts ordering. We're going to go to the parts marketplace, click on that, and we're going to enter code TRI23. And again, that'll take us right to the Tribbles parts website. All right. Now, one thing that I wanted to share here also, I think you may have seen it before, but just in case you missed it, is this part number over here, WX05X2002, that part number that you see right there on your screen. This is the part number for the door, the clear plastic door that we showed for the dishwasher. My friends, get this thing if you work on dishwashers, because when customers see the inside guts of their washing or their dishwasher working, they go bananas. Let me tell you, they just love it. And you as a service technician, like when I first saw this, I was like, whoa, like I can actually see all the components and you know, the lights, if the dishwasher has a light, and you know, the wash arms and the heating element, all that stuff internally working. It's a really cool part. And again, if you just go to the Tribbles website, oops, where am I over here? You can go ahead and type in that part number, and that'll show it right then and there. All right. That being said, my friends, before we move on to the schematics, any last minute questions about anything I've talked about so far? Out of water. All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to now go right to our schematics. So we're going to take a quick 5-minute break if you want to just kind of stand up and stretch really quick, but it's not going to be any more than 5 minutes. And while we're waiting, you can go ahead and click on the QR code here so you can register for the Fix It Like a Pro training series of webinars. I will be right back, my friends.
Mute now. I some.
I don't think you heard anything I said, right? Because I was unmuted. Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry
Yes.
about that. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I had muted myself for a second there, and I forgot to unmute it on this new equipment that we have. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the schematic diagrams now. So thank you all for patiently waiting. And again, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that what you're going to learn right now can apply to pretty much any, schematics are for the most part the same with different manufacturers, or electronics are the same, I should say. So what I'm going to show you right now can actually, work for other different vendors as well, not just GE, but of course we're focusing today on the GE profile refrigerators schematic diagram. Okay, so let's go ahead and quickly dive into that. Again, one last time there, the QR code if you want to scan it to register for the upcoming webinars that we host directly from our website. So let's go ahead and take a look. So here we are, the schematic diagrams, and the first thing I want to look at is the overall, right? So this is the entire sort of schematic diagram for the refrigerator main board. And as you can see, it's got different sections. It's got like fans on this side, AC input voltage on this side. So let's sort of break it down, because initially, if you look at this as a whole, it looks really, really scary. But if you break it down, it's actually not so bad. The main board is the center part right there. That's where everything is going to connect to. On the left side is going to be your DC circuits. So those are things like your LEDs, your thermistors, your fans. And on the right side is going to be your AC circuits, which of course are things like your compressor, defrost heaters, water valves, and of course your AC input. So if you break it down to sections, right? So here's the main, here's your DC, here's your AC, then you can manage the schematic a little bit better rather than trying to look at the whole thing, you know, as a big giant product. So why do we need to understand the schematic diagram? Well, for a couple of different reasons. Number one, you need to know where to place your multimeter leads on that appliance that you're working on. And again, there's a ton of wires on the main board and everywhere else. So for you to know exactly where to place your leads, you need to follow the schematic. Sometimes you might also need to check right at the components. So like over here in this picture, we're checking right at the defrost heater. And you'll need to know, for example, what the resistance of that heater is to determine if it's a good heater or if it's a bad heater. Now, one thing I'm going to show you here is the main control board, because the main control board is where all your connectors will be. And of course, we're showing a main control board without any connectors attached to it. And the reason for that is because I want to show you how many connectors there are on this board, right? We have connector J1, J2, J3, all the way to J14. So this main control board has 14 connection points where there are going to be dozens of wires attached to each one. And that can make it a really, really hairy situation if you're trying to diagnose an appliance. And that's why most technicians that don't understand schematics, they opt for just swapping out the part altogether. And unfortunately, for some, the part doesn't fix it because it's not the board, right? It could be a component, but because they didn't know how to interpret the schematic diagram and actually troubleshoot, they erroneously changed components. So let's go ahead and focus on an easy section right here. Let's focus on the AC section. And the AC section is where your power comes into the board, into the entire appliance. So let's go ahead and focus on that. And we're going to go to the section over here. So again, we've taken sort of a picture shot of that section right here. And now the schematic diagram, here is where that section is, right in this green box. So to make it easier for you all to see, we're going to zoom in, and now we can see it. So we can see that the AC cord is going to come into the, you have your black line for your hot, your white line, which turns orange, is your neutral, and then your earth ground right over here. So some symbols that I do want you to notice about this, okay, is first of all, how do we read the actual schematic? So if we want to know what this neutral J1-3 J1C means, okay, this is how we read it. For the neutral line, this schematic is telling us that J1 is a connector and the 3 is the pin number. So on the real board, right here on the board, you see this says J1 right here where my pointer is. This is connector J1, and the neutral line will be found on pin 3. Pin 3 is this pin right over here. And we can see it's pin 3 because it says N neutral. But the easiest way to identify the pin number is by this little arrow up here. This little arrow is telling me that on this connector, on this big 6-pin connector, this pin right over here is pin number 1. Therefore, the pin next to it is pin number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a 6-pin connector, and pin number 1 is right here. So if I wanted to measure my neutral, I will go to pin number 3, which is this guy right here, of connector J1. Now, another symbol that I want you to know is, of course, the AC cord. Just like an AC power cord, the little spade, the smaller one, is your hot, that's L1. The larger spade is your neutral, and then, of course, you have your earth ground. So that's how you would identify, like you would read this schematic right over here. Now, you might see also these weird little arrows that attach two different wire colors. And anytime that you see these sort of double arrows with a space in between, it means the wire is going through a connector. So in here would be a connector that attaches 2 sets of wires, and ultimately they go to the, to the same location. So for example, here we see these arrows over here. Here we see arrows. This means that the wire starts out white, goes through a connector. So let me zoom in actually. The wire starts out white, goes through a connector, and comes out orange on the other side. On this side over here, the wire starts out black, and it's brown on the other side. because it went through a connector. So it started as a black wire, but it ended up being a brown wire. So I wanted to kind of show you that as well. And then, of course, let's follow along. How does power get from the AC outlet to my board? Well, pretty simple. First and foremost, you have 3 wires. You have a orange, a brown, and then the yellow-green, which is your earth ground. So if we follow the schematic, right, if we follow the whole line, we can see here that my earth ground goes directly from the outlet directly to J1 pin number 2, which is my ground. And you can see right here, I'm going to zoom in for my ground, my earth ground. You see where it says J1-2? We're going to J1 pin number 2. And if I go over here, you can clearly see that we're in J1 pin number 2 right there. All right. So that's how we would see that. Now, obviously my hot, which is this black wire, goes through a connector, comes out brown, and then it goes to J1 pin number 6, because that's what the schematic is telling me. And my neutral enters as a white wire, comes out as an orange, and goes to J1 pin number 3. Now, there are going to be 2 models here that we're working with. Sometimes, and this is very important that you realize this, my friends, sometimes you are going to come across boards that are missing a connector or don't have any wires attached to it, and you might freak out and say, whoa, what happened here? Is it a factory defect? Did they forget to attach wires? That's not the problem. The thing is that we make one board for like the good, better, best model, and of course the best model is going to have all the connections. The lower end model that doesn't have that optional ice maker or that secondary defrost system, whatever, will have missing connectors. But the truth of it is, it's designed that way. So even though it's missing wires, don't worry about it. You just have to look at the schematic. And again, the schematic will sort of tell you what's going on. So in this case, I'm going to sort of zoom in here again, and we're going to look at this description over here. You notice that there's a slash between these 2 columns of descriptions. So this column over here is model A. So if I look at my laser pointer, this column here is model A, and this column is model B. So when we actually look at model B, you notice that J1 is not used. We actually use J1C, the connector J1C, and connector J1B. So let's go ahead and read here. Neutral goes to J1C pin 1, according to the schematic, and we can see neutral, we follow it, it goes to J1C pin number 1. And then line goes to J1B pin number 4, so this is my line, goes to J1B, so here's J1B pin number 4, and then of course earth ground goes to J1B pin number 1, so my earth ground goes to J1B pin number 1. And what you're going to see in the real world is not going to be this beautiful fancy diagram I'm showing you. This is what you're going to see. You're going to see a bird's nest with a bunch of stuff all around it, cables and tape and things. And by looking at the schematic, you will be able to easily identify what's going on with it. Of course, being that this picture that we have here does not use connector J1, we are looking at model B. All right. So before I move on, any questions on the line about what I just showed you? All right, let's go ahead and move on to the defrost section, right? So let's say we want to check that defrost heater. So here's the defrost heater. It's kind of coiled up here, and then it comes around. It's got 2 black wires, and there's my thermal fuses right there. And by the way, my friends, these thermal fuses, the reason why we put thermal fuses instead of bimetal devices is because if you're working on an R600A refrigerant system, these things will, when they reach a maximum temperature, they'll open up. They won't arc. Bimetal devices have the tendency to create a little tiny arc, a minute spark, but because R600 is flammable, we want to avoid any kind of potential for a fire, so that's why they put thermal fuses, just in case you were wondering why there's thermal fuses instead of bimetal devices. So now let's go ahead and look at the defrost section, and for that, we're going to focus on this green box right there, and let's zoom in on it. So the first thing I want to focus on is my freezer defrost heater. The freezer defrost heater, we can see that it's 37 ohms. I can see that there's thermal fuses in line with it, which will open up when the temperature exceeds 171 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course, here's the entire schematic sort of close up, right? And if we kind of follow along the cables, again, I mentioned that this is going to be an orange and a yellow cable. Let's go to the pin locations on the board. If we look at the schematic, we can see that the fresh food defrost neutral line goes to J1C pin number 3. So let's follow the neutral line, which is this orange wire, and we follow it, and it goes to J1C, and it's pin number 1, 2, 3. There it is. And then the yellow goes to J2, pin number 2. So now we've introduced another connector, J2, which we hadn't seen before. So we follow the yellow line, and we go to J2, pin number 2. Again, I know this is pin number 2 because my arrow points at pin number 1. Therefore, pin number 2 is right next to it. So that's how you would follow that. And then, of course, if we go to our freezer defrost heater, okay, and we follow those lines, those are in orange and a blue line. And I know that because the colors are on the schematic. And if I follow along, the blue line, which is my heater line, goes to J1, pin number 1, 2, 3, 4, the defrost. And that's what the schematic says, J1, pin number 4. And then my neutral goes to J1C, pin number 2, because that is what my neutral line says right here. Now, again, there's a different model, model B, because there's a slash over here for the hot line. And in this case, model B goes to J1B, pin number 2. Yep, pin number 2 right there. And if you actually looked at this in real life, this is what you would see. You would see all these sets of wires, but now you know exactly which location to place your multimeter lead to check for voltage, or if you unplug them, you could check for resistance as well. So that's how we would check the defrost system. And let's quickly move on, for the sake of time, to thermistors, right? So if we want to check your thermistors, you want to check, let's say, the fresh food and the evaporator thermistor. We go to the DC section, and in the DC section, we notice that the connector looks a little bit different here. It doesn't look the same as before. It does have an arrow, so let me go ahead and zoom in here. I want to show you real quick how that works. It does have an arrow up here, and it also has a number 1. So the way you would read this connector would be in the following manner. You would go to the arrow right there that's pointing at number 1. This is pin number 1. The pin right below that is pin number 2. The pin diagonal is pin number 3. Then below is pin number 4. So let me zoom out a little bit here and use my pointer. So again, this is pin 1. This is pin 2, pin 3, pin 4, 5, 6. So bottom line is, the bottom row is all the even numbers. The top row is all the odd numbers. So if we go ahead and look at our schematic and we want to measure, let's say, our fresh food thermistor, right? We're going to go from the thermistor, which is a tan wire. It goes through a connector. We see the connector symbol right there, and it becomes a brown wire, and that goes to J11, pin number 13, which is the last pin over here. Why I know it's 13? Because I'm counting 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. And of course, the other blue wire that goes to the thermistor comes into the connector as a blue wire, and guess what? Comes out as a blue wire for whatever reason, and it goes to J11, pin number 14, which is right here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So this is how you would determine on this particular unit if your thermistor is working, because thermistors work on 5 volts DC. So I would place both my multimeter leads there, check for 5 volts. I can also unplug the connector on the thermistor and check for resistance. And there's various different ways. You can put the thermistor in ice water and check for a thermistor value. But again, if you have SmartHQ, you don't have to do any of this that I'm showing you. You can just open up the app and it'll tell you. Of course, if we look at our freezer evaporator thermistor, look at the schematic diagram over here. I'm going to zoom in. There are no connectors. The cable goes, the tan wire stays tan and the blue wire stays blue, right? There's no connectors in between. So it's telling us here that my tan wire goes to J11, pin number 9. So here's the wire. So this is J11, pin number 9 right up here. And my blue wire goes to J11, pin number 10 right here, because again, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that being said, my friends, when you actually see this in the real world, it looks something scary and hairy, just like this. All right. I'm going to pause here because I just want to see if there's any questions on the line real quick before I move on to the last part, which is a little quiz that I'm going to give you all. Any questions about anything that I've shown you so far, my friends? I want to make sure that this is clear. We do have, again, in those in the Fix It Like a Pro series of webinars that I shared before, the QR code that you can scan, we do have an upcoming course on schematic diagrams. We're going to be, a little bit more, obviously for time purposes right now, we can't cover everything in finite detail, but as we go through more of these courses, we will also allocate more time for them. I do see a hand up, so Shane, go ahead and ask your question, please.
I just had a quick question
Mhm.
on, excuse me, on some makes and models of appliances that you connect the SmartHQ to, has taken out main control boards to where it just, I think it was on some washer models that were
Yeah.
having issues. And if that, I'm sure you guys are addressing that, but is that
Mhm.
something we still can have happen even with this new version of the
Gotcha.
SmartHQ?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Shane. So thanks for asking. So the for everybody on the audience that might not be aware, years ago we had an issue with a lot, not a lot, a lot, right? A certain lot of top load washing machines where for some manufacturing process, whatever it was, the main board, it was maybe 1,000 units altogether, right? But those boards, when they were shipped to the field and customers bought them, if you connected the SmartHQ service in a certain, I forget exactly how it was. Like if you connected SmartHQ, then you turn the power onto the machine, or vice versa, something like that, it would basically brick the board, right? It would
Yes.
fry it for all intents and purposes. What we did, because we knew we had caused that, right? Our software had caused that. It was a software related issue. Anybody that came to us with that issue, we would refund or compensate them for a new board, and then that the problem would never happen again because a new board would have the software that doesn't happen, right? So we've actually addressed every single one that we know of as far as the serial numbers. So there should not be any out there in the field. But if you do come across one of those that you connect SmartHQ and it breaks your board, and it has to be on that specific model because we didn't see it on anything else. It was a GTW, I think it's a 220, or don't quote me on it, but it's a top load washer, like Shane mentioned. If you happen to have that happen to you, again, contact us. We will need the board back because we need to, just validate it, but we will compensate you for a new board. We did that with every single one of our customers that had that issue. And the problem, I haven't heard of it in almost like, I think close to a year now. But if it does come up, yes, we will take care of it. That's because that's our, that's our problem that we kind of, did. All right. So yeah, great question,
Excellent.
Shane.
Good. And is it proper sequence to always have the unit powered on before you connect the SmartHQ? That's kind of a practice I do now on all
Yeah.
appliances. Instead
Yeah.
of connecting to a dead or a sleep appliance, I always make sure it's powered up and on because it seemed like that may have affected connectivity and bricking, like you're talking about also.
Yeah, and then no, that's a great point. And then the other thing is the power for the module comes from the appliance. A lot of people think that this has a battery or you have to charge it. There's no battery in there. It doesn't need a charge. As soon as you plug into the RJ45, it gets its voltage right from the appliance. So it's a great question. I see another question on the line there, John. I see your hand up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Like with most technicians, I'm thankful for this invention. For one thing, it alleviates trying to spend several hours looking for a tech sheet. So then,
Yeah.
how about tech sheet now in relation to the digital meter? Do you need to still go look for that, or we got everything we need in the smart digital meter that you have?
The tech sheet you're talking about?
Yeah, every unit has a tech sheet, right?
Yep. So the tech sheet is actually right on the app. So like the appliance that I'm connected to, if you go to manuals and bulletins, and then you look at the mini manual right there, it's in digital form. You can pull it up.
Oh, that's great.
There it is, my friend. And look at the quality of the schematics. It's pretty darn clear, right? So it's a cool tool. But also aside from that, so by the way, thanks for chiming in and thanks for joining. If you are working on an appliance that is from before 2012, when this system kind of started to work, right, with our appliances, like, you know, let's say a fridge from like 2002 or whatever, it's not going to have a port. You can't connect to it. You can still, on the application, type in the model manually and pull up all the service documentation. So legacy documents from years back will be there as well. Okay, so that's great questions. All right, my friend, let me quickly go to this last section of the training because I do want to cover this section, which is sort of your little quiz over here. So based on what we said, all right, my friends, I'm going to ask you all to just type in the chat if you like, or you can just kind of follow along. What is pin location A, B, C, D, E, and F? So what I'm going to share with you right now is pin location A. So here we have pin location A right here. This is connector J8, pin number 1. All right, so A, I'm going to give you the answer for that. A is connector J8, pin number 1. Question, John, there? I think I hear you asking something.
I'm sorry, I was transitioning from the car to my home.
Oh,
I didn't. I'm sorry.
okay.
Go ahead, sir. Yeah,
No, it's okay. It's okay.
just ignore
So,
that. Yeah.
so everybody, go ahead and you know, in your mind or type in the chat if you like what the answer for B is, what the answer for C is, D, E, and F. So if you think about it, right, connector. So E, pin 4, F is pin 8. Yep, you got that. All right, so I see some things coming in. All right, so I'm just gonna, for time purposes, A is pin 1, B is 3, yep, beautiful, and C is 4, beautiful. Okay, so everybody's kind of getting this. All right, awesome. So here's the answers, right? Connector or B is J8, so connector J8, pin number 3. Then obviously C is pin number 4, D is pin number 8. On E, right, this is J6, pin number 4. And then F is J6, pin number 8. What you've just identified here, believe it or not, right, with this exercise, you've just identified the pin connectors for these 3 evaporator or these 3 fans. So you've identified the voltage that goes to the freezer evaporator fan, which is J8 pin 1 to J8 pin 3, the DC voltage, which is typically 13 volts DC. You've identified the feedback that comes from the icebox fan, which is J8 pin 4 and pin 8 on this schematic. And you've identified the fresh food fan speed signal, which if you look at the mini manual, it's actually going to give you the color of the wires. And in addition to that, it's going to give you what the voltage is when you put your multimeter on any one of those pins. So just as easy as you did this, okay? I know this was a super quick, you know, I kind of rushed through this because we do have a limited amount of time, my friends. But just as easy as you were able to identify those pins by just looking at the schematic, you can identify anything, a heating element on an oven, you know, water valves on a dishwasher, water valves on a washing machine, the spin motor, the 3-phase motor on you know, anything that's out there. You can identify using these tools. So my understanding is that this webinar is being recorded. And I believe Tribbles is going to share it with you all, so you can watch it later on. But definitely do take advantage of the upcoming trainings that we have. We are going to be partnering more and more. This was just the first kind of trial. You know, we were testing the waters with Tribbles. This is the first time we do this, but we are going to be doing a lot more. And it's not going to be in this, you know, dingy basement. It's going to be in a nice, beautiful studio that we're going to have set up. So for now, my friends, unfortunately, we're out of time, but I do want to see if there's any last minute questions on the line here before we go.
Can you explain it? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Mohammed.
Yeah.
I
Can
have
you
a quick
explain?
question about the
Oh, one second. Mohammed was asking a question first. So one at a time. Sorry, go ahead, Mohammed.
Like before running a call, can you get manuals and
Yes,
from
absolutely.
the app without having to connect the SmartHQ?
Yep. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to kill the Bluetooth on my phone. I'm going to turn the app off and I'm going to turn it back on. That's a great question. So we're going to just manually type in a model number. Let's say you needed the manual for GTW220, right? So we type in the model number, then we go to the manuals and downloads, and you can pull up the mini manual right there before you even go out to the service call. And by the way, you can download the entire service manual as well. So if you don't know how to, I used to do this all the time. I would look at the disassembly procedure if I knew I had to disassemble something beforehand. So when I get there, I have the right tools. I know what doors I have to take off or whatever. And it's a much, much simpler process. That's a very smart thing to do. Thank you for asking that. And I think everybody should be doing that. Prepare ahead of time so that when you're there, you're not studying, you're already prepared for the test, right? And you're ready to pass it. So great question. I had another question here.
Yes,
Yes.
if it can guide us how to make account on SmartHQ service, or is
How to get
just
it?
a very simple? Because it when we try, may try to make it. It says as unverified or something like that.
Are you getting access denied?
Yes.
Okay, so do me a favor, type in the chat box your email address and just put in parentheses access denied. I will address that with our team. That's our admin team has to approve it. So just type in your email address and the just put in parentheses need access, and then I'll we'll look into it and grant you access. Any other questions? I see Mudasar was asking a question.
That was me.
Yes, sir. Oh, that was you? Okay. Any other questions there before we drop here?
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Mhm.
Okay, I have a question. A little bit, I was late, but I'd like to go on about this your class. How can I go get a next step? First question. Second question, I'm not vendor for your GE, but can I be vendor? How can I be vendor for GE?
Oh, if you
Hey,
want to be authorized, yeah. So if you shoot us in, I'm gonna go ahead and type in my. All right, give me 1 second. Let me one dot at G. Okay, I'm gonna type in my email address in the chat. Go ahead and send me an email if you're interested in becoming an authorized servicer for GE appliances. Send me an email. I will go ahead and take that information forwarded to the area manager of what your area is, and then we'll they take it over from there. I don't do the authorization. We have area managers that can do that as well. This video is recorded, this training, so I believe Tribbles will be able to share it with you. So just contact your Tribbles rep to be able to see this this training video as well.
still I have another last question.
What
Hello?
was that?
Yes. How can I get that SmartHQ?
SmartHQ service. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the contact info right here for you all. So it's actually the last screen over here. So everybody should be able to see it right now. Everybody should be able to see the contact info, smarthqpro.com. You can just go to our website. You can also email us at smarthqservice.support@geappliances.com. But the first thing is that the module, the Bluetooth module, you'll need to purchase it from your parts distributor, which is Tribbles. When you purchase the Bluetooth module from them, what's going to happen is there's going to be a QR code there that will take you right to our website where you can register your account and then begin using this this tool right away. So that's basically how you would be able to acquire this.
Oh,
All right,
thank
we
you.
have time for one more question, my friends, if there's any last minute on the line. Mohammed, I see your hand up. Well, all right, so Kimberly just put a link to ordering the module directly from Tribbles. So yeah, definitely go again to your Tribbles representative, and you can get the module right from them. My friends, I just want to say, to everybody that's still on the line, thank you so much for joining us. If it were up to me, we would put this tool in the hands of everybody for free because it is an amazing tool. Of course, there's a lot of work that goes behind it to make it, a lot of engineering, a lot of manufacturing, so we can't give it away for free. But let me tell you, as a technician, if I would have had this years ago when I was doing this kind of service, oh my God, it cuts your diagnostic time, I mean, at least in half. So you can run more service calls. You can, if you have a larger company, you can afford to hire maybe another technician, right, to run more service calls. It is a time saver, a game changer, and a money maker. I don't, the investment you're going to make on the tool, you're going to pay, it's going to pay for itself in, I'm going to say tops, the first 2 or 3 times that you use a tool. And then after that, it's pure profit. So definitely go out there, get this tool, talk to your parts distributor Tribbles. And again, here's our contact info. Feel free to reach us and register for those upcoming webinars. One last question that I can take, and then I have to jump to another meeting that I have pending. But yes, one last question here.
Okay, my question is, I know we're gonna purchase the SmartHQ, but it has a monthly service to use it?
Yeah, there's a monthly fee. So the fee for this is currently $50 per month to have the application. And a lot of people shy when they hear that. They're like, oh my God, $50 a month. I don't know if I can afford it. Let me tell you this. If you save one service visit a month, just one, right, that you don't have to go back a second time, you know how much it costs to put a technician in the field. Not only will you have paid for that service, but you will have made a little bit of profit in the process, because it costs a lot more to send a tech, put a tech in the field in a customer's house than what this service costs. And like I said, let's say you do a firmware update, if you charge $50 for extra to do the update on top of your service call, right there, you've made your money back right away. So it's a really, really good investment. Believe me when I tell you, I'm not telling you this as I'm not a salesperson, first of all, for GE Appliances. I'm their technical field application engineer. As a technician that I was, it's something you absolutely want to have. Even if you only do 3-4 GE service calls, a week or something, definitely, get this tool and start using it right away. All right, my friends, unfortunately, we have to go now, but again, this will be recorded. Get in contact with your parts distributor. They'll share the recording with you. If you have any last questions, please type them in the chat, and we'll see you next time, my friends. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Juan.
Thank you all.
Thanks for everybody attending as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for Tribbles.
Not a problem.
Was tech support part of the